Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our science class. So for this week, we will talk about frictional force that can be found on pages 218 to 224. So let's go back to force. Force is a push or pull exerted by one object on another and that can cause change in motion. So when you say friction, it is the force opposes motion between two surfaces sticking or touching together. It can cause object that moves along a surface to slow down and eventually stop. So ang friction katulad na lamang kapag pinagkiskis mo yung dalawang papel, okay? Ikiskis mo yung dalawang papel at kapag kiniskis mo ito, magkakaroon ng sticking, okay? Or touching together dun sa dalawang papel. Or pwede naman, kumuha ka ng isang bagay, ikiskis mo ito dun sa iyong legs, then kumuha ka din ng isang napakagaan, for example, bulak or maliit na piraso ng papel. So, ikis-kis mo muna yung isang bagay dun sa iyong legs. After few counts, idikit mo ito dun sa maliit na papel at mabubuhat nito. Okay? Yung maliit na papel and eventually mahuhulog din ito. So, there are different kinds of friction. We have rolling friction, fluid friction, sliding friction, and static friction. Let's start with rolling friction. When an object rolls over a surface, this kind of force is produced. So for example na lang kapag yung bola nagro-roll dun sa ground, then nakakapag-produce ng rolling friction. You need to have less force to overcome rolling friction. So one of the most common example of this is the kind of friction, the movement of vehicles' tires on the road. As the weight of the rider and the vehicle presses the tires against the ground, then this downward force creates increase in friction between the tires and the road. So kung mas mabigat yung rider, okay? So mas napupush nito yung tire doon sa ground. So kapag mas napupush ng weight, okay, yung tie ay mas dumidikit dun sa ground, then nag-create ito or mas tumataas yung friction between tire and doon sa road. If were not for the friction, the tire could not push on the road surface to drive the rider forward. So, kung walang friction, hindi gagalaw itong gulong para mag-move forward. Next is fluid friction. It is a friction between moving objects and a liquid or gas moving in. It occurs in a swimmer swimming in water, boat traveling in water, or an airplane in the air, and objects moving through fluid experience drag. This drag slows down the motion of the object, and the force of drag depends on the shape and size of the object and velocity of the water. So example, moving boats, drag acts in two ways, between the surface of the boat and the water and between the sails and the wind. So dito sa fluid friction, nakadepende siya doon sa shape and size ng object at yung viscosity ng object o viscosity ng water. So kapag yung yung viscosity ng water, like yung tubig, okay, kapag ibuhos mo, madali lang itong mahulog. Pero kapag yung mantika, parang unti-unti, hindi katulad ng tubig. So ang nabubuong friction between moving objects and a liquid or gas moving in ay yun yung tinatawag nating fluid friction. Kahit pa ito ay sa liquid or gas, under pa rin ito sa fluid friction. Next is moving airplane. The shape of the airplane and the size of the engine help it to overcome the drag to move forward. So, kaya ganon yung shape ng airplane, okay? At ganon yung size ng engine para yung airplane ay makamove forward, okay? Yan ay sa air. Ganon din sa moving boat. Kaya patulis yung hugis ng boat para ito ay mag-move forward siya. Next is sliding friction. Also called as dry friction, occurs when two objects rub against each other or slide against each other. Sliding friction is caused by bonding between two surfaces. It acts in opposite direction of motion. Sliding friction slows down the movement of an object that is moving. This sliding friction prevents the object to move forward as fast as it could. When sliding friction is acting on an object, other forces must be present to keep the object moving. It could be a push or force of gravity when the object moves in slope. So katulad na lamang kapag yung book, okay? Yung book inilagay mo sa taas ng mesa. Then nakatilt ito, yung mesa hindi pantay, naka-slide. So hindi agad-agad makuhulog yung book na nakapatong sa mesa dahil sa sliding friction. Pinipigilan ito ng sliding friction. So next one is static friction. Occurs in stationary, from the word static, hindi gumagalaw, stationary objects or objects at rest. It is a kind of friction that prevents an object from moving against a surface. Static friction is shown in a notebook or any object placed on the table or any surface which remains still. Friction keeps a notebook from sliding off a table. Even when the table is slightly tilted, you can pick up an object without the object slipping through your fingers because of friction. So, ang static friction naman ay isa ring halimbawa nito ay yung notebook kapag iniligay mo dun sa taas ng table, okay, kahit pa hindi pantay yung table or maaaring mag-slide yung notebook, hindi ito agad-agad mahuhulog because of the static friction. Okay? Friction keeps a notebook from sliding off a table. Now, watch these videos to know more about the kinds of friction.